The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are simply that, opinions. All are presumed innocent until proven otherwise in a court of law. Sensitive topics are discussed. Discretion is advised.
I'm Vinnie Politan. The subject of my investigation is the abduction of Savannah Guthrie's mom, Nancy, an 84-year-old widow who was living a quiet life in the beautiful Catalina foothills of Tucson until she was abducted. Here's the story. In the normally peaceful Catalina foothills of North Tucson, a disturbing mystery has shattered the calm. 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie, the mother of Today Show anchor Savannah Guthrie, was reported missing February 1st after she failed to arrive at a church service and family members discovered her home in troubling disarray. Pima County Sheriff Chris Nanos says investigators believe Nancy was taken from the house against her will. She has limited mobility, requires daily medication, and authorities insist could not have simply walked away. Blood confirmed to be hers was found on the front steps. Detectives are also examining possible ransom notes containing specific details about Nancy and her home, though officials have not verified their authenticity. Savannah and her siblings have publicly vowed to do whatever it takes for her safe return. Now, with the FBI involved and images of a possible suspect recovered, the search for answers and the search for Nancy has intensified dramatically. I really get the feeling that things are moving and moving in this investigation very rapidly, but I think it's going down more than one road at a time. Let's bring in Court TV field reporter Cody Thomas. Okay, I guess the biggest development obviously is that video of this suspect, and what is some of this new information that we have about that suspect?
Well, yeah, Vinny, through new FBI analysis of that video, they have determined that the suspect is a male, approximately 5'9", 5'10" in height, and have average built like an average man. They also say, Vinny, in that video, he's wearing a black 25-liter Ozark Trail Hiker backpack. And you're looking at images of that type of backpack there on the screen now. That's what they say he was wearing. The FBI says they're hoping these new details, male, 5'9", 5'10", average build, this backpack, they're hoping these details narrow down the tips they're receiving, Vinny, because since February 1st, they've gotten over 13,000 tips about Nancy's disappearance.
Yeah, you give a little more information, a little more specific, it does help. And that's a very specific backpack. So, and you get to the height, the size, it's not 6'4", it's not 5'4", it's in the middle, it's kind of average. All right. New ransom note or new communication apparently to TMZ today. But before you get to that, why don't you go through the history of these notes for us?
Yeah, Vinny, there's been multiple notes floating around out there being sent to local stations out in Tucson, sent to some national networks, but it all began with this one note sent to Scripps News Tucson. That is a local station, and that station put out this statement here, Vinny. They say they received a ransom note referencing Nancy Guthrie, Savannah Guthrie's mother, and makes a specific demand for several $1 million in Bitcoin by Thursday. Now, this was the week that Nancy went missing, by the way. $1 million in Bitcoin by Thursday, and threatens to kill her if payment is not received by Monday. It also makes specific reference to 2 pieces of evidence at the crime scene, which we cannot authenticate as legitimate. KGUN has forwarded the full contents of the note to investigators and authorities. And Vinny, TMZ also received a ransom note early on in this investigation as well. Take a listen to Harvey Levin on Fox News' Hannity.
There are 2 deadlines. Yes, there is one that changes the demand, and that's the one that that has already passed. And the one on Monday is far more consequential. They are also saying, Sean, and I find this pretty interesting when you look at what happened today. They're saying that this will be their only communication. And they are done communicating, negotiating, here's the deal, and that's it.
Now, Vinny, in a recent press conference, FBI officials said that they were only taking one ransom note seriously. Take a listen to this.
We are aware of a ransom letter that was sent to the local media and then to national outlets. As with every lead, we are taking it seriously.
There have been, as far as we know, I think 3 ransom notes so far, 1 arrest. Are they all different? Do you think there's different authors behind all of them, or?
So the one that went to the media is the one we are currently investigating and working on. The imposter that I talked about, where an arrest was made early this morning, that there will be more information. We believe there's no evidence to connect this to Nancy's case. It was someone that was trying to profit from it, a total imposter.
And then, Vinnie, on February 5th, a new message, a new ransom letter pops up. And the sheriff put out this statement. It says, the FBI and Pima County Sheriff's Department are aware of a new message regarding Nancy Guthrie. Investigators are actively inspecting the information provided in the message for its authenticity. And then, Vinnie, came an arrest of an imposter. An imposter sending ransom notes, sending emails out to local outlets, trying to take advantage of the Guthrie family's pain at this time. They made an arrest for him because it was all a hoax. But then, Vinnie, this is the person they arrested right here, the imposter. But then a new person emailed TMZ asking for 1 Bitcoin in exchange for information about Nancy Guthrie's kidnapper. So, Vinnie, essentially a new ransom note for info about the first person that wrote a ransom note. Now, this new person has sent TMZ a second ransom note as well. Here's what Harvey Levin has reported on that.
This morning, just after 8 a.m. Pacific time, he sent us this other email complaining that he is not being taken seriously. He says that he wants the Bitcoin, which is worth around $67,000, for several reasons. Number one, he says by coming forward, he will become a, as he puts it, a national rat. He also says, and this is a quote, he doesn't want to be, quote, incriminated like that guy Carlos.
So, Vinnie, you have all this going on. Multiple ransom notes, imposters getting arrested, a ransom for the ransom, deadlines have passed, but Vinnie, still no movement, still no sign of Nancy Guthrie.
And no evidence of any payment that's been made either. Okay, thanks, Cody. Cody's going to stick around. That brings us to the first question in our investigation, which is, are any of these ransom notes real? Or I guess some aren't ransom notes, they're tip notes, or we have information notes. But these are all these anonymous notes being sent to the media. Are any of them real? Joining me, missing persons in private investigator Steve Fisher and retired FBI agent Stuart Fillmore. Stuart, I'll begin with you. The FBI is on top of all this. What are your thoughts? Are any of these notes or ransom notes or communications for real?
Well, the one that grabs my attention immediately is the one where it mentions that there were specific things within the home that were mentioned within the ransom note. Now, if that, we don't know what that is, but that's certainly one way that it could be authenticated, that someone that was in that house would only have that knowledge. And so I don't expect them to publicly release what that is, because that's a way that they're going to know if the person they're dealing with is legitimate or not, because no doubt they are dealing with people that, you know, that there's already been one definite imposter, and probably some of these other things, this tipster to TMZ, I think that's a scam as well. But the one note that is mentioned about having information about stuff specifically inside the home, they have to take that one seriously, and that may be real.
Steve Fisher, what are your thoughts about this? And you know, the other thing we have to look at it is compare it to the abductor that we see in the video, and you know, the level of his competence in all of this. Does he look like he could be part of this master plan to extract, you know, millions of dollars worth of Bitcoin? What are your thoughts, Steve?
No, he doesn't appear that way to me. I mean, everything, you know, from what he's doing now to grabbing some flowers to cover the camera to the holster of the gun. I mean, it's a revolver, you know, holster, and he's got a semi-automatic. It's just everything's wrong about it. It's not experienced what he's doing. But he could have been. So I totally agree with what Stuart was saying. I believe that the original Bitcoin ransom probably, was legit. And this could be somebody that's just being paid to grab her, and the actual person demanding the ransom is out of the country or something like that. But the other ones I totally discount. I think, look, the one that wants 1 Bitcoin, well, the reward's 100,000 now. The reward is worth more than 1 Bitcoin. So why wouldn't you just claim the reward?
Yeah, that's kind of bizarre. When we look at this new one, apparently doesn't want to be known as a rat, doesn't want to be chased down. But the bottom line, Stuart, and even with the payment, with the ransom note, it's very difficult to take a Bitcoin address filled with millions of dollars that the whole world knows about and is watching, and somehow liquidate that into actual cash. So I don't know, I don't understand that part of the story, why we're all in on the Bitcoin here. And to me, that makes me question it to a certain extent. But maybe they have a way, or they got a guy that takes care of the Bitcoin address.
Yeah, it just doesn't end well any way you project this thing out. And in my experience, kidnappings just never turn out well because the weak point in it is when the bad guy goes to collect the money, whether it's at a ransom drop somewhere or whether it's a sophisticated way with the Bitcoin. Eventually, that they're going to be found. There's just kidnapping is just such a stupid crime. But it's just unfortunate, that we still have Nancy out there, and I'm quite sure she's probably suffering. And, it's just really sad.
Steve, do you think it's possible that the ransom note is real, but there's no expectation on the abductors to actually collect it? That it was just to perhaps act out some vendetta against the Guthrie family?
I absolutely think it could be that, or I think it could be that something changed in that 40 minutes that they were in the house, and I think they'll have a good indication of that by being able to see her heart rhythm up until the time that the pacemaker disconnected. If she was going into AFib or something like that, and then they could deduct that maybe she didn't make it much longer after it disconnected, and they switched. They're just taking a Hail Mary at ransom, as before it was going to be more of a negotiation. Now it's just a pure trying to see if we can do a transaction, see if they fall for it. And, we saw the family saying they were going to pay it, and then something changed the next day, and they weren't.
Stuart, are you surprised that the FBI hasn't been able to track down the genesis of the ransom notes that were sent to the media?
Well, frankly, yes, because it clearly, we know there's a lot of resources being applied to this thing, but again, for me at least, it's a new world. I never investigated anything related to the Bitcoin or these this kind of thing, but they're sending it to the news media. You think that there's some way they could track it from there, and I'm sure that's all been tried, and there may be a lot more going on that we just don't know about.
Steve Fisher, Stuart Fillmore staying with us. Coming up next, why are investigators zeroing in on specific windows of time?
Nobody's eliminated, but we just really don't have enough to say, this is our suspect, this is our guy, we know, or our gal. We just don't know that.
The Court TV podcast will return.
Potential audience copy to the reference missing person of a PTSD at 5820-5020, approximately Escalante. Copy reference Nancy, a white female, 84 years of age, 5'2" medium build, powder blue, wings after 2,200 hours as of yesterday. Nancy has high blood pressure, pacemaker, and cardiac issues. Sending details for staging.
There's the dispatch audio. This investigation, and there's been a lot of focus on not just Nancy Guthrie's house, but the neighborhood itself, right? This is a very unique neighborhood, to say the least. Let's bring back in Court TV field reporter Cody Thomas, who's been in that neighborhood. What are investigators looking for from people, Nancy's neighbors, the folks in that neighborhood?
Well, Vinnie, they're looking for anybody with any sort of surveillance video whatsoever in the general vicinity of Nancy's house, and they're zeroing in on certain time frames, Vinnie. Now, this quote here, this statement is from the Pima County Sheriff's Department. They say investigators are requesting all video footage that includes vehicles, vehicle traffic, people, pedestrians, and anything neighbors deem out of the ordinary or important to our investigation from January 1st, 2026 to February 2nd, 2026, so just over a month, Vinnie, a day over a month. An alert was just sent via Neighbors app to users within a 2-mile radius of Nancy Guthrie's residence near East Skyline Drive and North Campbell Avenue. And Vinnie, TMZ also has a statement put out as well. It says, quote, the authorities specifically want to view video from January 11th between 9 p.m. and midnight, and from January 31st between 9:30 a.m. and 11 a.m. A suspicious vehicle was spotted around 10 a.m. on January 31st on Via Entrada Road, which is close to Nancy's home in the foothills. No description of the vehicle was provided. So any sort of surveillance footage of anything out of the ordinary, Vinnie, that's what they're looking for. And of course, I was out in that neighborhood, and a neighbor actually told me that police came knocking on her door late one night looking to see if she had any video. Take a listen.
I had police officers knock on my door about 9 o'clock a couple nights ago and ring my doorbell, and of course that scared me. It was dark and like what, and of course they were canvassing the neighborhood to see if people had any cameras outside, ring cameras, thing like that could help. My camera had been down, and ADT was actually at my house Monday, and my camera was not up and running until about 5 o'clock Monday afternoon.
You know, Vinnie, as with any case we cover, surveillance footage of any sort, anything out of the ordinary, would prove to be extremely, extremely crucial in this investigation.
Oh, absolutely. And really interesting that they're looking at January 11th, which is a Sunday. Brings us to the next question in our investigation. Why are investigators zeroing in on specific windows of time? Still with me, private investigator Steve Fisher, retired FBI agent Stuart Fillmore. Steve, what are your thoughts here? I'm really intrigued by the January 11th window of time that they're talking about. February 1st is obvious also because that's like the day, but then on the 31st in the morning as well. What do you think?
Well, I think that they're betting that the person responsible probably, does work in the neighborhood or was surveilling the house, and so they're wanting to obviously see if anybody's lingering around the neighborhood. But this is where the cell tower dumps can be really important too, because cell phones, they can tell, your phone is anchored to an area, you're like your home. And so they can tell what phones are not anchored in that neighborhood. And if they see a phone traveling at strange times of the night, or, that's going to be a big tip off for them. That they need to track down that IMEI and who's attached to it, if it's a burner or not. And so things like that, those, anomalies, I think, will help lead to, a bucket of suspects. Some of those people were there legitimately, working or whatever, but this person may have been working in the neighborhood, but if they're lingering at night and if that cell phone's coming back and checking it, at that time in the morning to get a lay of the land, then that's going to be a big, tip off. So those timeframes are important.
Stuart Fillmore, does this sound encouraging that they're zeroing in on specific times, and one of them is on January 11th?
Absolutely, and I agree completely with Steve on this. And Vinnie, go back to the Koberger case. So we know when he went by the doorbell camera, leaving the scene so fast. We know when the cell phone went off, the cell phone went back on. So you can pretty well kind of track where he was all the way back to his apartment. So it sounds to me like they have zeroed in on something either from the geofencing, something from a neighborhood camera, to kind of pinpoint this and to really hone in on that time period.
So, Steve, as we look at neighbors and their cameras and anything else that they have, I've got to think that this neighborhood is going to be jumping at the opportunity to try to help, and anyone and everyone is going through whatever sort of security system footage that they have, because I think everybody wants to help here, except obviously the people responsible. Are you getting that feeling as well? I mean, this story is so huge at this point.
Absolutely. And you know, she's not just a missing person that's been abducted, but she's an 84-year-old woman, helpless, that have mobility issues. So yeah, everybody wants to help her. And they are, clearly asking for anybody that's got footage, but that doesn't mean that they don't have some key footage. I would, they're not going to tell us, but anything from somebody that had traditional surveillance cameras instead of Ring cameras, because these are bigger lots that are offset from the street. But people that have Teslas that drive by that have cameras that get alerts if somebody walks by them and stuff. There could be stuff that they have that we don't know about, and they're just collecting those dots right now. And now they're putting them together and hopefully will lead them to this person, because as we've seen, this was not some master criminal. That's one thing we learned from that surveillance.
Yeah, I agree. And Stuart, that's part of the time. It's very time consuming to go through all of this, because it's a lot of video. There may be some little piece of the video, so you can't like scroll through it super fast. You might miss that 1 or 2 second flash that is the most important part.
That's exactly right. You may not necessarily even know what you're looking at. And so, unfortunately, it has to be analyzed in real time. And just as you said, you can't fast forward through it. You've got to be very diligent in what you're looking at, because you could miss it. It could be in the blink of an eye.
Yeah, I mean, so many of us are used to, if we're on YouTube or somewhere else and we want to scroll past something, or we hit the fast forward button on our TV. You can't do that when you're going through these hundreds and hundreds of hours of surveillance video looking for that key piece. And Pima County, Steve Fisher, publicly was requesting January 1st, like more than a month's worth of video. I mean, they've got a place where people can upload it all. This is a big job.
It is. It is. But, it's absolutely worth it. And they do have a lot of resources there. But, like Stuart was saying, you have to watch it. You can't skip forward on this. And then when you get into the infrared, when you get into the night vision, because this is something that myself and an analyst that works with me kind of specialize in, is this reviewing surveillance footage. There is, it's a lot trickier. So the night footage is going to take 3 times as long, because you got to look at all these shadow anomalies and stuff. And, and the infrared really plays with things. So it's going to be a big task, and I guarantee there's a lot of people huddled around computers right now that are given buckets of video to watch, and hopefully they'll find something.
All right, big thanks, Steve Fisher, Stuart Fillmore. Always great to have your expertise joining us here on the program. Still to come, what were investigators doing under the tent?
Now, back to the Court TV podcast.
I'm Vinnie Politan. We continue our investigation of the abduction of Nancy Guthrie, a case with a missing 84-year-old woman, bloodstains outside the house, and mysterious ransom notes. Here's the story. When 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie failed to show up at a church service on Sunday morning, worry quickly escalated into a criminal investigation. The mother of Today's Show anchor Savannah Guthrie was last seen around 9:45 p.m. Saturday, January 31st, at her home in the Catalina foothills north of Tucson. By midday Sunday, relatives who found no sign of her inside contacted authorities. Investigators soon declared the residence a crime scene, saying the evidence strongly suggests Nancy did not leave on her own and was likely taken against her will. Blood confirmed to be hers was discovered on the front porch. Authorities have also said security cameras and digital monitoring connected to her pacemaker were disabled around the time she disappeared. Now the FBI has joined the case and recovered previously lost images of a possible suspect. With those new leads in hand, the search for Nancy and the person responsible has intensified dramatically. The search is on, and it seems that they are examining and doing more things now. Like there was an initial investigation, but what has transpired since then seems even more intensive than the original investigation. Let's bring in Court TV field reporter Cody Thomas. Cody, so tent put right there on the front porch of the home. What I want to do is go underneath the tent. What do we know about the front of the house? What evidence is connected to that area?
Yeah, Vinny, that tent set up right there near the front porch, and clearly the authorities didn't want anyone to know what was going on under it. But what we can do is walk through some of that evidence we know is associated with the front porch. You're seeing images of that tent there now. They're putting it up, and you see they're putting the walls up where people can't zoom in with their cameras to see anything, any activity going on under that tent. But Vinny, the first piece of evidence that we know is associated with that front porch area, we know there was blood found. Blood found spattered, you see it there, right there outside the front door. And Vinny, that blood spatter that we see matched Nancy's DNA. The authorities confirmed that in a recent press conference, but they also said that no blood was found anywhere else inside or outside the house, outside of that area, specific area that it's in right there. And they also said there was no signs of forced entry to the home either. Now, Vinny, we move along. We've all seen this creepy video of this masked person. Don't know if it's a male or female. Well, their profile did say it was a male, average build. But a masked person walking up to Nancy's door late at night, Vinny, with a gun dangling in their waistband, gloves on, a full backpack. We see them tamper around here in this video a bit before seemingly trying to cover the camera up. Just very strange activity by this person. And then, Vinny, again, we also see in this video of the blood spatter, we see when we get up here and the freeze frame stops, we see that the doorbell camera is not there. You see it mounted there on that beam of wood where the doorbell camera should be, but it is not there. So again, Vinny, Nancy Guthrie lives out in a pretty remote area out there in the Catalina foothills. We don't know what they had under that tent specifically, but I'd imagine it was something important enough to not allow the public or any media to be able to see it.
Yeah, a whole lot of media that's out in front. Thanks so much, Cody. All right, that brings us to the next question in our investigation. It's all about the tent. What were investigators doing under the tent? What was going on there? Joining me, former homicide detective and host of The Interview Room with Chris McDonough. Chris McDonough is here, and host of the podcast Hidden Killers with Tony Bruschi. Tony Bruschi is here. All right, Chris, what do you think was going on there? What were investigators doing under that tent?
So, Vinny, I think there's a couple of things happening here now that the video has come back with the suspect on the porch. You'll notice they set the tent up, on the exterior of the porch. And I think that was to cover the vegetation where they now know for sure the suspect reached down and grabbed it. And the reason for that is if you can collect that vegetation and later on, hypothetically, you get a vehicle, there's ways of connecting that type of, foliage to the particular area. And if this is, worst case scenario, a situation where there's a body dump, you can also connect that vehicle back to that location. The second thing I think is happening, they're probably running a ferro, which is a laser that would do, dimensions, that kind of stuff. And they're also lasering out that particular porch. And then the third piece, I think, is the floor mat, where you see the suspect step on that floor mat. There's a technique, what they call the MVAC or the Bardot method, where they can reach down and literally suck up DNA from that floor mat that may have transferred from his shoes.
All right, Tony, the surprising part of this, right, as we look at the image of what Chris was talking about, it's 12 days after that all this is happening. Mm-hmm. And by the way, when the crime scene was cleared, we have images of the blood and everything because camera people were walking up to, and they weren't doing anything wrong. It had been cleared. The investigation's over. It's fine. But now we're bringing a tent there.
Well, it was either a pop-up margarita bar or, and this is what I'm really thinking it is, the FBI's video forensic analysis unit showing up. They had the Pelican hard cases there. Some reporting has said that they saw the word video forensics on some of their things, which is basically laser measuring equipment, specialized lighting, almost like a survey crew getting measurements, but in a really tight space. Why would they need measurements in a space like this? Because they got that doorbell camera footage of a masked figure standing right there. So they're getting their suspect profile physically mapped out. So now they know exactly how tall this person is, their physical portions. This will help them identify and eliminate potential suspects going forward. Most importantly, eliminate, because what they got here this afternoon, and it appears it came from this, is what I would guess 5'9", 5'10" is the height that we heard right after they were done with that map. And anyone who's not 5'10" is then basically eliminated as possibly being that man. Sometimes light can affect that sort of equipment, so that's probably why you had the tenting going on.
And there we see the image, so you got to somehow match the image you see in the video with whatever measurements that you're taking today. Something, by the way, Chris, that was never done by investigators in the Delphi case. There was never any attempt to try to get the size of the bridge guy from that case. It would be great if in this case this turns out to be accurate, if and when they make an arrest, or they can nail down the height of the suspect.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and, Tony and I, agree 1,000% that that is definitely one of the uses that is going on here. I think one of the anomalies that they're going to have, though, is you notice the suspect kind of leans to the left as he not only walks, but it's almost as he's looking in through the side window there. But so that can also, there's a potential that could throw off, the height. If we go back to the Koberger case, where, they thought they had the right year of the vehicle, for an example, and, they put that out, and one law enforcement agency thought, well, the year's wrong. So I think they also have to be very careful when they say, hey, 5'9", 5'10", because, I've worked this many of these types of capers, and you just don't know until you get the guy in custody.
Yeah. It's amazing that they were able to recover this video. The other thing about his presence here, a lot of the time he's like bent over a little bit, and he's not, he doesn't do a great job of standing and posing. And obviously here he's obscuring the video. But I think as he exits here, the only time he really stands up straight is, well, it's not there. I think it's when he gets up from the flower pot for just a moment. Yeah, sort of right about there. It's amazing. Now, Tony, do you think they have more video than we're seeing, or do you think they released what they have here, at least of this suspect?
It's hard to know. Obviously, there's so many things going on here, and there's a lot of confusion. My gut would tell me that there may be a little bit more left. She did not have the subscription, so there is only so much data that's going to be in that resident memory that they picked out. Hard to know. And I'm imagining that they only are going to be releasing video that would be pertinent to helping find Nancy. So if there is other footage, maybe even of her possibly, we don't know that by any means, but if that did exist, I don't think they'd be releasing that right now.
And Chris, does the presence of the tent, does that end up encouraging you, make you believe that we are getting closer?
Yeah, I think we're in the third quarter here, Vinny. I really do. I think, if they can put their, egos aside between the two agencies, I think we'll start seeing some real things happening over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, that's another thing. It seems to be cropping up, a little bit of rivalry between Pima County and the FBI. That's never good. That is never good. All right.
Never good.
Tony and Chris are going to stick with us. Coming up next, are the suspects watching the news coverage?
We will not rest. Your children will not rest.
This is the Court TV Podcast.
Mommy, if you are hearing this, you are a strong woman. You are God's precious daughter, Nancy. We believe and know that even in this valley, He is with you.
This has been a very unusual case for many, many reasons. And one of the reasons is everything is playing out so publicly. And every development, everything that's happening, these searches that are being done on the roadside by the FBI, people are live streaming during the search. Like, while evidence is being gathered, pictures are being taken in the moment. I want to bring in Court TV field reporter Cody Thomas. So, Cody, do we have any idea how widespread this coverage is of this story, this investigation?
Well, yeah, Vinny, it's quite literally everywhere you turn. It's on TV across all networks. It's on the radio. It's all across social media. In fact, I searched the hashtag Nancy Guthrie today on Instagram, and all it gave me was 5,000 plus. I guess that's the limit that Instagram gives you before just, you start going haywire with how many hashtags there are. But Vinny, take a look at some of these clips from news outlets and various clips from across social media just showing how widespread this case, this story actually is.
Breaking news.
Major breaking developments in connection to the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie. Law enforcement revealing a person is now being detained and questioned.
We do want to begin with the search for Nancy Guthrie, as we just got some new information there from Pima County. She is the mother of Today's Show anchor and Tucson native Savannah Guthrie. I did listen into that press conference from the Pima County Sheriff's Office, as they are now turning to the public for any and all help.
We're bringing you team coverage on the search for Nancy Guthrie.
These fast-moving developments come the same day the FBI released new images and video of a suspect in the 84-year-old's disappearance. The video shows the intruder walking up to the front door of her home wearing a mask, gloves, and a backpack.
Saying he needs the Southern Arizona community to step up here if you do have any information involved in this case to find Nancy Guthrie. Please contact your local authorities.
This is a big update. I believe investigators in the Nancy Guthrie case have found something. Look at this still shot from the TV. They're asking specifically all the neighbors for camera footage on January 11th from 9 p.m. to midnight and January 31st from 9:30 a.m. to 11 a.m.
Here is new video footage that is being released of a man that was just 5 miles south of Nancy Guthrie's house. There's a lot of controversy with this. I understand that some things look different, but this is absolutely crazy to me. What do you guys think? I can definitely see the similarities. The clothes are just way too close.
Another part of the Nancy Guthrie case that is actually keeping me up at night. I was up at 3 in the morning last night, and I haven't gotten to sleep since because I discovered this, and I was like, oh my God. In the surveillance footage, right, of the guy, girl, whatever it is, first thing first is the flowers, right? The theory with the whole thing with the camera in front of the house, and if it was someone that knew Nancy or someone that has been to the house before or someone that looked at the house and got the whole plan out before entering the home, they wouldn't have forgot that there's a camera in front, and they wouldn't walk up to the camera.
And Vinny, those are just a few clips of thousands across social media. Likely some of them have already gone viral. And Vinny, one last thing I do want to report is that Variety says that the Today Show's viewership has gone up 23% since all of this has began.
Yeah, everyone wants the latest details from the network where Savannah works. Thanks so much, Cody. Appreciate all your work tonight. That brings us to the final question in our investigation this hour. Are the suspects watching the news coverage? Let's bring in our guests. Joining us, Chris McDonough, former homicide detective, host of The Interview Room, and Tony Bruschi, podcaster, host of Hidden Killers with Tony Bruschi. Okay. Chris, you're smiling. I got to start with you. You think they're watching?
Oh, yeah. There's no doubt about it, Vinny. And not only that, they're enjoying all of the other noise that's, surrounding the incident that they know that they're involved in. So, and that's why it's really important for the investigators to continue to slow everything down, okay, and critically think through the whole process in relationship to where they're standing right now and what type of information they're releasing.
Tony, if they are watching, what do you think they're thinking? Do you think they had any idea? Do you think they had any idea this would be the result of it? That's really what I'm getting at here.
No, I don't. I think they're horrified, quite honestly, at what has become of what I would, in my opinion, would say was probably a B&E gone horribly, horribly wrong. The thing is, it's not just the suspect that's watching this. It's the people around the suspect that are watching too. And that's what matters even more, because somebody recognizes that figure on that doorbell camera. Eventually that call gets made. And if it doesn't, if this isn't some hardened criminal or psychopath, which from what we're seeing on this doorbell camera, I don't know that it is. If this is really somebody who was making horrible choices, convinced themselves that stealing and breaking and entering is what they needed to do to survive, to provide, and this thing went horribly wrong, that person is not probably sending out ransom notes. They're sitting somewhere right now watching this in horror, and they know what they did. They know that there's no pretending out of this. And the people close to them, they know too, or they suspect, and those people are watching Savannah Guthrie post these videos begging for their mother back, and they're looking at someone that they thought they knew in shock and horror. And if that person is watching right now, if this is a horrible accident that happened during a break-in, take the path of accountability, step up and end this nightmare for everyone.
Yeah, this is Chris McDonough. At this point, whoever it is has to realize, with the size of this story, the light that is so brightly shining on it, and everyone talking about it and knowing about it as well, like, your days are numbered. Like, you can't get away with this at this point, not in 2026.
Yeah, no, totally agree, Vinny. And now just add the dynamic. You have an 84-year-old woman, okay, that you have to manage for medical health care as well. So we would call that post-incident behavior. And, as this incident behavior, the post-incident behavior starts to unwind, just what Tony says. I mean, this guy is, or gal, or whoever, and, variety of different people, potentially. They are all spinning out of control right now. But on the flip side of that, they have to be thinking, okay, is there DNA? Did we leave that in the house? Remember early on, Vinny, I want to point something out. The sheriff said the DNA on the porch belongs to Nancy, okay? He also said we're waiting for other items to come back, okay? And he then made the point that we're going to throw that into CODIS. And he strategically put that out there, I thought. And I picked that up about, whatever it was, 7 or 8 days ago. And I told my wife, I said, they got huge. More.
They've got more. We don't have more. We've got no time left. Sorry so much. Chris McDonough, The Interview Room, Tony Bruschi, host of Hidden Killers. All right, no doubt the coverage of stories help. For those of us outside of the Tucson area are intrigued and want to see Nancy come home, and for folks in Arizona, this level of coverage makes everyone want to help solve it. And people are going through their videos from their homes and businesses that may just crack this case and bring Nancy home. I'm Vinnie Politan. We'll keep digging for answers as the investigation continues.
There you have it. If you want to see more in-depth reporting on the latest true crime stories, you can see me every weeknight, 8 p.m. Eastern on Closing Arguments. Thank you so much for downloading. And as always, please don't forget to hug the kids.
This podcast is a production of Court TV. Go to CourtTV.com for more content, trials on demand, and to find out how to watch Court TV in your area.